All right, man, peace. So, brothers, one of the storylines in the NBA that bears watching, in my view, is this Kawhi Leonard to the Toronto Raptors storyline. Because Kawhi Leonard, to me, is someone who I believe could easily become enraptured by the scenery and the ambiance of Toronto. It seems like a place where he and his family could quickly become very comfortable, especially if he's involved in leading that team on a magic carpet ride to the Eastern Conference Finals or to the NBA Finals. I could easily see him deciding to re-up with that franchise. But then again, he's a relatively introverted individual who seems like once his mind is made up, it's made up, and that's that. So anyway, let's see what he has to say on NBA Media Day. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Why, look at you had a whirlwind of a summer. Can you talk about everything is going on, how you're feeling right now?
I'm feeling great. I'm happy that, I'm healthy and I'm able to start training camp and, not just sitting on the sideline and, watching the guys go, ready to be in a mix and, I'm ready to strive for this season.
When you look at having an injury, and I know when basketball is taken away from you, you get a chance to reflect on a lot of things. How are you ready to go 100% from day one from training camp, no restrictions?
Yes, that's what I'm happy about. Able to just go out there and practice and, build that team chemistry in the beginning and not just hop in.
When you look...
Right now, Greg Popovich is watching this interview, and he just shot out his television screen. He just, fuck you, Kawhi.
When you look at this team, from a standpoint of defensively, yourself, Danny Green, Kyle, OG Anunoby, how excited are you on the defensive end? You got Serge and Valanciunas behind you. You have a lot of young guys with some length. Pascal Siakam, DeLon Wright as a point guard. Defensively, this team has all the length and guys that can guard multiple positions.
I'm excited. That's where the NBA has come today. Going out there, being able to switch 1 through 5, and we have that talent here. We could all guard the point guard or 4-man at the moment, and our big guys can move their feet, and they want to play defense. They like to block shots, so that's very exciting for me. Just being on the perimeter, guarding the best player. Maybe he gets by me, then you got a big fella right there to protect you.
When you look at the offensive end, have you got a chance to talk to Coach Nurse about your role or the style to play the Raptors will try to play start of the season?
Yeah, I'll talk to him very shortly, just bouncing the idea.
Well, we know it was very shortly, brother. I mean, let's be for real. This interview right here is probably the most that you've spoken in the last 2 years to anybody.
Ideas off of each other, reading each other, trying to see what how our minds think, and I think it's going to be a great season. He's very open-minded, as am I, and we're just going to keep learning from each other and strive for the greatness.
What have you added this summer? Everybody adds something in the summertime. Is it you on the block, or are you shooting more threes? Tell me, you're going to give us a secret of what have you added on that offense?
Well, he really don't need to add any threes because the last time he was fully healthy, he led the league in three-point shooting percentage. The brother can pretty much do it all. All he really needed was to be fully healthy and to know that the organization that he plays for is not trying to sabotage him through the media.
On that offensive end?
Just gotta wait till season, but for me not be able to play last year, I usually get a sort of feel or what I was uncomfortable with and try to bring it into the summer. But so without playing last year was very hard, but just working on everything, tuning up my game and making sure that I'm ready for any defense to come at me.
When now you start to look at it, and now the question's going to be all year. Is Kawhi Leonard staying in Toronto? How are you going to handle those questions? And I would say, the other things other than basketball is going to be asked. Is he happy? Is he staying long term? So tell me how you're going to be able to handle that. And do you have some of those answers right now?
He's going to handle it how he always handles it. He's going to look at you with a stone face and say, right now I'm in Toronto. I'm playing for the Raptors. I'm enjoying my time here. Next.
Well, that's not for me to talk about. That's for you guys to mention on TV. But for me, myself, my family, we are all focused on being in Toronto and this season. And I can't look past that, or I'm not going to play well. So I'm focused on this team and getting us to where we got to go.
Great answer, brother. Great answer.
Go.
When you look at this team and you have all these guys, is there something that you set as far as you guys? Is it championship or bust get to the championship, or are you just going to try to take it day by day?
You got to take it day by day. You can't think about that right now. We haven't even started training camp yet. We're in the process of doing that. So day by day, and as the season goes on, then you start to build the pedigree and go from there.
Have you got a chance to talk to some of your teammates besides Danny that you know real well? Have you got a chance to talk to Kyle? You got a chance to talk to Serge Ibaka?
Yes, I did. I passed by Kyle Lowry in the locker room, and he said, "Hello, Kawhi." And I looked at him and I said, I felt like I broke the ice with that. That's normally my icebreaker. I say,
A little bit, not as much as I want to, but like I said, these next months are going to be great for us, being able to gel and see how each other think.
Is there any individual goals you're looking at when the Defensive Player of the Year award again, MVP, some of those things individually that you have in the back of your mind?
I never strive for those goals. Just try to do what my team needs me to do and be the best player I could be for the squad. And
that's for sure. And that's why Greg Popovich was so frustrated that he could not manipulate him, because he knew what he had in Kawhi Leonard. He had a player who literally would do and could do anything out there on the basketball floor. You very rarely find players as talented on the offensive end as Kawhi Leonard was, who was equally as talented on the defensive end. He truly is a gifted defensive player. I mean, when I think about the most naturally gifted two-way players that I've ever seen, he's right there with Scottie Pippen. And, of course, Michael Jordan is at the top because he's the greatest offensive player that I've ever seen, and his defense was as good as any perimeter player that I've ever seen. But, I mean, just right below that, you have the Scottie Pippens, you have the Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi is right there with a Scottie Pippen in regards to being a two-way player. And Kawhi's offense is a little bit better than Scottie Pippen's offense ever was at its peak. Just a little bit.
And when you do that, in my past, that's what happens when you come out with the Defensive Player of the Year, MVP awards.
Okay, well, I'm going to play Coach Nurse. I need you to be MVP. I need you to be Defensive Player of the Year. So, all right, can you go out there and do those things for me?
I could do that. That question is crazy, though. I can't even see you right now.
I got you if, my guys are happy and we're winning.
Got you. Thank you, Kawhi.
Fantastic stuff, Smitty. A great answer there by Kawhi. It's interesting, guys, because I've heard a lot of people over the offseason say, okay, LeBron's out of the East, who's the best player in the East? And they've said Giannis and Embiid or Kyrie, somebody on the Celtics. People almost are forgetting, Grant, that at his best, when he was healthy, we're looking at a guy who was one of the best small handful of players in the league. That's the guy that is on the Raptors now this season.
Well, let me say this very quickly. If Kawhi Leonard is still the player that he was the last time that we saw him in the 2016-2017 season, he's a player who's certainly in consideration as the second best player in the NBA and fighting for that number one position. As I've stated, the reason why I have LeBron still at number one is because when you look at all the other players, there's something glaring that you could say that they're missing in their game. With a Steph Curry, he's not a dominant defensive player. He's also not an elite athlete. With Kevin Durant, he's not an alpha. With Anthony Davis, he has not quite had the team success that one would be looking for to declare somebody the best player in the NBA without a doubt. With Russell Westbrook, he's just not efficient enough. James Harden, we know what happens with him on defense and also in the biggest games. So Kawhi Leonard is really that player that if he's the same guy that he was in San Antonio, let's say, for example, he's able to lead the Toronto Raptors to 58 wins or 60 wins, and he's that 25-point per game guy shooting 50% from the field and playing elite level defense, one can certainly make the claim that he may be able to take LeBron James's crown as the best player in the NBA, depending on how great this season will be for Kawhi. Because LeBron is no longer a factor on defense. As a matter of fact, he's pretty terrible on defense.
And unfortunately, we live in sometimes an out of sight, out of mind world. But yes, Kawhi Leonard, MVP candidate. I saw something. He has when his teams have the highest regular season winning percentage when he plays, higher than any other player in NBA history. So he makes a difference. As great as DeMar DeRozan was, and he was spectacular last season, Kawhi Leonard is just on another level and could very well be the best player in the Eastern Conference this season.
Zeke, when you look at this team, now it's how does he mesh Why or how, if he is Kawhi maybe a better fit for the Raptors to take the next step than DeMar was with this group?
Well, he makes them better defensively. And when I say he makes them better, that's an understatement because they become a juggernaut.
Absolutely. When you have a Kawhi Leonard on your team on defense, he can guard any position from the 1 through the 4, and I mean guard them for real, guard them extremely well. If every other player on that team, particularly in the starting lineup, is willing to just play hard with a player like a Kawhi Leonard who's extremely proficient and efficient on defense, they're going to be a top 3 level defensive team in the NBA, no doubt about it.
Because you talked about them being able to switch all 5 positions. He can defend the point, he can defend the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, whoever you have out on the floor. And then he can
Well, he can't guard the 5, but he'll try. But he can guard 1 through 4.
He can also create mismatches offensively. So what he gives you on the defensive side, and that's what we overlook a lot, right? When we talk about championship play, we always talk about the offense, but championships are normally won on the defensive side of the ball. In Toronto, adding Kawhi has just become arguably the best defensive team in the league.
Well, they'll be right there with Boston and Golden State when Golden State ratchets up their defense. Overall, as a team, they'll be right there with those 2 teams. And maybe San Antonio, depending on how well DeRozan integrates himself into their offensive and defensive schematics.
Something important happened, Griff, I think, over the last couple of months when Paul George made his decision. Everybody thought when he went over there, okay, he's just hanging out, right? Till he goes to LA. There were people already sitting there on 2K putting him in Laker uniforms because it was over. He decides to stay. How much do you think that was the impetus to even make this deal happen? For Masai to say, hey, look, that shows we can sell him on the idea of staying in Toronto.
Well, it's certainly for a player who identified with LA and Oklahoma City and Sam Presti were able to recruit him over the course of a year. Kawhi similarly had been speaking of LA, or the scuttlebutt was that he wanted to be in LA.
Right. Allegedly, he definitely wants to be in LA. And I do believe that he originally wants to go to LA, or that he originally wanted to go to LA. But with a lot of the hullabaloo that gets created by LeBron James, I think that right now he's in the position where he can be won over. Almost like someone who was in a long-term relationship that ended poorly, and now all of a sudden they stumble upon someone who's a great person. And who knows, if Kawhi is as open-minded as he alleges himself to be, Toronto may have a chance if they treat him well enough and if the team is successful enough.
And Masai recognized, listen, we have an incredible culture here. We have a remarkable city. We have a team that has a chance to compete for a championship. We have to capitalize on the window of opportunity we have. And Kawhi, to Isaiah's point, is exactly the right fit for that team to do that. It's a stroke of genius on the part of Masai and Bobby Webster to take this gamble because they have such a great story to tell and such a great product to sell over the course of the year to a guy who Kawhi, and Steve asked a great question about handling those questions. He's very open-minded, right? But it's not for him to discuss all of that. But in addition to the fact that they got Kawhi, I love the fact that they got Danny Green in the process as well.
Well, Danny Green is a very good glue guy. He's a great perimeter defender. He'll certainly be a big help against teams like Boston and Philadelphia, especially Boston, with the speed that they have on their team.
This is a really, really significant event for them because they've got the versatility offensively and defensively to play lineups that you may see Kawhi play small 4 sometimes with nothing but defenders, and then maybe you sprinkle in Greg Monroe to run some of the pinch post offense Nick Nurse likes. From a fit standpoint, this is the polar opposite of the Jimmy Butler experience in Minnesota. This is exactly the right guy going at exactly the right time to the right place. And if Kawhi is in fact open-minded to it, this is going to be a stroke of genius.
I want to ask.
I agree with you, sir. We'll see. I think that Kawhi Leonard plays the style of basketball, both offensively and defensively, that whoever attains him, it's pretty easy to look like a genius when you can get a player like a Kawhi Leonard. Because he can play with the basketball, he can play without the basketball, and he's going to give his all on both offense and defense. He's not a me-first player. So it's very difficult to acquire him and have it not look like a stroke of genius.
I want to ask.
I think
Go
the
ahead.
guy who
Go ahead.
will benefit the most from Kawhi's arrival will be Serge Ibaka. Because I look at the way Serge has had to play the last couple of years, and now Kawhi becomes the best defender on the team instead of people looking at Serge as being the best defender. Now Serge gets put back into that spot where he's the second best defender on the team, and now you'll see Serge.
I agree with Isaiah Thomas, but one thing to watch is the rapport between Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry. Not only because Kyle Lowry was best friends with former Toronto Raptor DeMar DeRozan, but also because Kyle Lowry has had his share of mental breakdowns himself. And could it be that the departure of his quote-unquote best friend from the team may result in a drop-off in play with Kyle Lowry? We'll find out. It would not surprise me if they're shopping Kyle Lowry around the All-Star break.
Have a much better year. So I think the Kawhi effect is going to have a bigger impact on Serge Ibaka more than any other player there.
And look, getting back to Leonard, I just think having gone through a difficult year last year, being hurt, a lot of stories were out there. He was relatively silent. He was very engaging in that interview with Smitty.
Well, he was about as engaging as Kawhi can be. Like I stated, Kawhi is the type of guy who plays tic-tac-toe against himself.
There's a feeling as a great player when you have something to prove. And he's a very low maintenance great player.
Absolutely.
In terms of being a teammate, plays the right way. He's not super vocal, just goes about his business. But just, I know coming off an injury and missing an entire season is tough and there's a rust there, but the feeling of something to prove that I can be a good teammate, that I can be a good leader, that I'm a champion in an environment that's all set for you to go and at least have a chance to get to the finals. I'm excited for Kawhi Leonard this season.
I am also. I'm very excited to see how Toronto does with him on their squad as their leader. I'm also very excited to see how they fare against Boston and Philadelphia
this season, this Raptors team. I just know the mindset of a great one. I think he'll have a fantastic season.
Had the top seed, right, move the franchise face, and fire the coach of the year. Clearly what they do in the playoffs will determine whether or not this is a success.
No doubt about it. We're certainly going to see how Toronto fares with the great Kawhi Leonard on their squad. Hopefully the brother can stay healthy and prove all the doubters wrong. But anyway, peace.